Welcome back to Talking Talk. Today we are in the Jeep Wrangler Overland. Now this comes in at 58,000 as it comes 10,000 above the Sport S, which is the base model at 48,000 that has the soft top and less features. This Overland is 3-door that we've got here. It's not the Rubicon, which is the most adventurous, the most off-roady Wrangler that you can get, but the Rubicon is 4-door, 5-door only. So this 3-door option is only the one we've got today. Now inside you've got leather seats all around. Now the front too can be heated, as well as the steering wheel, which is a really nice touch. A lot of American cars have that heated steering wheel element, which is great in winter. You can control these seats from here, along with your air conditioning. You've got your auto stop start, your traction, your windows are actually here as well. You're up, you're down, not on the door. You've got your 4-wheel drive control here, which is quite hard to move out. So it's not going to automatically be bumped into 4-wheel drive mode or high range or low range, which you don't want to be in low range if you're just on tarmac. Now you've got your 8.3-inch touchscreen display in here, which is the Uconnect FCA system, which is quite great. You've got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and is quite responsive. You can also get a lot of instrument clusters on there, show all your off-roading information, which is quite helpful. We've got a whole tech review that we'll put below in the description, which will just go through all the screen settings here. Now you've got 2 analog clusters, your rev counter and your speedo, as well as a digital instrument cluster in the middle, which has a digital speedo. It shows all your off-roading information, all your clusters that you've got on here. It can also show them on there, as well as your fuel consumption, your trip information, your audio, and anything else. And it is quite big, that display. So that's basically all I'll be looking at, because the other ones are analog and a bit slow. The wheel is leather, of course. Now your volume controls on the wheel are behind. I thought they were paddles, but they're not. That is your volume control that goes up and down, and your options up and down. So for example, between radio stations on the left. You have your cruise control options on here on the wheel, as well as how close you want to be to the car in front for the adaptive cruise control, because it can sort of dictate how far it's going to be from the car in front. And you've also got your emergency braking, which will pop up on the dash, and you can change the options of how close you want to be. You've got 2 water bottle holders here. You've got your first storage, which is your wallet, your phone, and your second storage, which is much bigger. You can fit things in there, and a second USB. The other USB is here, along with a USB-C, which is a nice touch. You can use USB-C or USB 2.0, as well as an aux. And as soon as you plug in the USB, it pops up CarPlay, no dramas, and you're ready to go. Now the glove box is tiny. You're not going to fit much in there. The general rule of thumb with this car is storage is not ripe, given the size of it. Your roof does come off. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 latches that you just unlatch, take it off, and you're ready to go. You've got your essentially a bigger sunroof to have. And it is quite comfy in here. You do have a decent amount of space. The only thing that is annoying is there's no left footrest for the driver, because it was made in America on the left-hand side, and there's a lot of space in the passenger's seat. But on this side, my left foot just sort of sits there right near the brake. There's nowhere for it to sit. It's missing a solid, 10 centimeters of space that ordinarily your left foot would just be lying there on that piece of plastic. Potentially, I believe the gearbox is down there, or the drivetrain, just clogging up a bit of space. Now you do have this random hole here. It doesn't go deep. It probably goes that far deep, so it wouldn't fit a phone. And if it did, it would probably fling out. And a bit of space here that might fit a phone just as it's sitting there. Or I just use my phone and put it in the water bottle holder. But it is quite nice. We had a seat in the back. We'll show you what it's like in there. It has a decent amount of space. Now, when I tested that in the back, I put the seat all the way back, which was still not too bad at all. You've got 4 seats here, 2 people can comfortably sit there. You've got plenty of technology with the aircon, the USB port, USB-C, as well as an AC adapter. So you can just plug in your laptop, let it charge completely, and go from there. So there is a decent amount in here, minus the storage space, which isn't an awful lot, but we are in a 3-door car. What can we expect? Now, mind you, I have put the chair as far back as it can go just for this test. And as you can tell, my feet, I thought it would be worse. It's not as bad. Now, when I put the chair a little bit forward, comfortable enough for the driver to drive without feeling like they're squashed if they are a bit taller, it does the job just fine. So there is more space than I expected. Don't be alarmed by this. I've done this purely just to show you the worst it could be, which is fine if you just sort of man spread a bit and put your legs out. But because there is no middle seat, you can do that fine and no one will complain. You have 4 USB ports here, 2 normal USB ports and 2 USB-C ports, which is great. That's a lot. That is 4 devices that can be charged at the same time, as well as an AC port. So 230 volt AC 150 watts that you can plug in a laptop or any other device. Then you've got 2 bottle holders. Very comfortable leather seats. These ones aren't able to be heated, just the front. Now, you've got your headrest here. You've got speakers up here. You've got a decent amount of headroom up the top. The issue is the headroom with this structure here that sort of holds the top together. Because you are quite close to it, let's say you're going over some bumps or you're going off-roading, there is a chance that someone a little bit taller might hit their head here as they're going, but that hopefully won't happen to anyone. Here is your lights, more structural designs come back here, and here is the rear window, which is so close. We're talking from the chair to the window, it's about that much space, which just shows how small the boot is. Given that it is a 3-door car, it is a Jeep Wrangler, you're not going to get a lot of boot space. 197 litres. If you do flip these chairs forward, you will get 587 litres. So it triples, quadruples the amount of space, but obviously you lose 2 seats in the process. Now, when you do that, you can fit a couple suitcases. As it is now, without the seats flipped down, probably fit a couple backpacks, and that's it. It is small. It's not made to have a big boot. Otherwise, you just get a normal SUV or a 4-door or anything that is a bit bigger. But overall, it feels quite good here. It's not too hard to get in on the passenger side. The driver's side a bit more tricky because you've got the steering wheel there, and the roof will come off, which we can show at the front. So it stops there. Here, the roof will stay, obviously, so it's not a complete convertible. It's just like an extended sunroof at the front where you can pop the roofs off and enjoy the air coming through. But overall, it's quite decent. Obviously, the windows won't open at the back, but it is quite good. I'll be curious to see how it goes if it is on a long drive. It isn't the worst back here because there's only 2 seats. They haven't crammed in 3 seats here. So obviously, it's a 4-seater. You can sit here comfortably without any issues. Time to take the Wrangler Overland for a spin and have a bit of a chat about how it is on the road. Now, this Wrangler has the Pentastar 3.6 litre V6, which has 209 kilowatts power and 347 Newton meters of torque, which is very impressive for a car that isn't the biggest, given that it's losing a few doors and lost a bit of weight. It is performing quite well. It is quite lively. The accelerator sort of just wants to go. It's naturally aspirated, so you're not going to have any turbo lag. And it sort of just wants to take off. Now, it does rev a bit hard. 6,400 RPM is where you get your peak power. It does sort of just want to probably go a bit earlier than what you would have liked, but I'm not going to be complaining that my car wants to accelerate a lot. That is a great thing to be having, especially in a car that's this chunky and this big. The transmission is a ZF sourced 8-speed automatic, which is loads better than the outgoing. Well, okay, it's just auto locked. Loads better than the outgoing 5-speed auto, which was just atrocious. Overseas models will get a 6-speed manual, but we are stuck here in Australia with the ZF 8-speed, which is great. It means that on the low end, gears are changing much more frequently. You're going to be able to be cruising at much lower revs, and it just makes a more quieter ride, which is what you want in a car that can go off-road, but as well as be able to do your day-to-day driving comfortably. On that note, because the tires are so thick, they're not off-road tires. They're not the full 32-inch terrain tires that you might get in the insane Rubicon, but they are still great tires. They have enough grip to support you on the road. They don't lose traction, and they take a hit quite well. Now, if you are going at higher speeds on the motorway, for example, The noise might not be the quietest given that your roof here is meant to come off. So it's not sealed as good as it could be, and it means that you might have a bit of noise that you might not want to be hearing, which is sort of just a little thing as well. Onto off-roading. Now, it doesn't have all the features that the Rubicon has, such as the locking differential, the sway bar, and all those different options that the Rubicon has, but that's sort of the most extreme type of off-roader you can get. And this is a good middle ground because it doesn't need all those features and it still has fun. Because the wheelbase is much shorter, it's able to off-road quite well. It's able to crawl through rocks, up and down hills. It's got the hill assist, and it's got all the gauges and the clusters that make off-roading quite good. Now, the thing I like about this car is that it can do off-roading quite well as everyday driving, which is the benefit of having a car that isn't made fully to be an off-roader. So it still can do the off-roading incredibly well. I'm not putting that down at all. And we've taken it over a few different off-road tracks, and it's awesome. It's got the four-wheel drive that you can put into permanent mode, so it's permanently on four-wheel drive. It's got high range and low range, and in all of those options, it does it well. Depending if you want to go on the low range, it does that quite well, and then the high range if it's needed, or you just go back into two-wheel drive when you're on the tarmac, which is just, again, normal driving. And because it is like a little nimble car, it is so, that's the best thing about off-roading in this. It hasn't got a huge presence like some of the other ones. And because it is so little, it just nimbles through when you're going on the off-road, whether it's on the rocks or the sand or the dirt, it just does it quite well. And then you move onto the road and it's basically just become a road car, which is the thing I love about it. You put it back into two-wheel drive mode, you make it a road car, and everything just goes as normal. Sure, it's not the biggest and it doesn't have the biggest boot, it doesn't have all those features that bigger cars might have, but that's the thing with this. It's cute, it's little, it's nimble, it can do off-road and day-to-day driving without an issue at all. And sure, the exhaust is a bit loud, but I'm not complaining about that either because it is a great sounding exhaust. The V6 just revs hard and it revs loudly, and I like that. It shows it's got a bit of grunt. You can hear the engine wherever you are, and it does it quite well. Now, when you're driving and you're accelerating, we'll give a bit of a hit. It sort of just wants to go. It revs hard and it revs smooth. The transmission does quite well. The transitions between the gears could be a little bit more seamless, but it still does a great job, that gearbox. I'm quite impressed with it. It keeps the revs low, especially on the motorway, because you're sitting in 8th gear as opposed to 5th, which is what it had before. It drives comfortably. It can take on any terrain. Anything that you throw at it, it will do it. Now, I think this is a good compromise because you don't need to invest in the full Rubicon, and you can still have that daily drive. If you can live with the 3 doors and the 4 seats, then go for it. It's a great car. It comes in at $58,000 for this Overland, which is a bit pricey, but you do get a lot of car for your money. Now, some other markets have the 2-litre turbo, which has a bit more torque and is a bit more fuel efficient, but we don't get that here. Now, they claim fuel economy to be 9.6 litres per 100. We have been returning around 12 to 13 litres per 100, which is a mixture of mainly city driving, a bit of motorway and off-roading, but you're going to sit at around that 12 mark. If you're just on the motorway, you'll drop it under 10 easily. It's not a little turbo engine, which is going to be more efficient. So there is the Jeep Wrangler Overland. It's a great little car to drive. It's been great fun, whether it's off-roading or on the road. A few little niggles that I am annoyed about, like the footrest and a little bit of space, but that's nothing too big. People are still going to buy this car because they love it. It's going to perform incredibly well off-road, and it's going to continue to be a day-to-day drive that won't have any issues at all. It just transforms from this off-road machine to this daily drive. It's got all the luxury interiors, the leather, the heated seats, a great infotainment system, great dashboard and head unit. There's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of technology, which is the upgrade that it needed from the previous generation. And that's what makes it a great day-to-day car as well as an off-roader, because it has all these features that it needs. So there's the Wrangler Overland. I hope this was useful to some people. We're going to put a lot more videos into this in the review. We've got the exhaust, the technology, the point of view test drives, which you can check out. I'll leave a link in the description below with all those videos. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.